And welcome back to the Oklahomans Election 2014 coverage. I'm Dave Morris. Thanks for joining us tonight. Well, the polls have been closed for over an hour and several races have already been declared. And here to talk about what we know at this point is Nick Trougakos, local editor with the Oklahoman. And Nick, one thing we know is we are refreshing our devices to see the latest results from the State Election Board website.
And you're not getting much of an update when you do that. Yeah, we've been in contact with the State Election Board this evening, and it looks like they're having some technical issues with their website, and so they have not posted updated election results since about 7:30. That's something we're monitoring. They don't anticipate that it's a serious problem, but hopefully something they can get straightened out in short order.
Well, as we mentioned, several races have already been called tonight. In fact, the AP is calling the race for the U.S. Senate seat vacated by Republican Tom Coburn. No surprise here, James Lankford.
And there wasn't much hand-wringing in this race. 7:03 p.m., a mere 3 minutes after the polls closed, the AP called that race for Lankford. As of last update from the State Election Board, he was pulling about 65% of the vote in that race. Another
non-surprise is Senator Jim Inhofe. And at this point, let me give some props to our man in Washington, Chris Castile. He is a fantastic follow on Twitter. He's like the Barry Trammell of sports, of politics, just because his knowledge, he's so ingrained. And by the way, follow us on Twitter tonight. OKVotes14, I believe, is the hashtag there. Inhofe turns 80 this month. He would be 86 by the time this term ends. Adam Kemp, another one of our reporters, tweeting tonight, said Inhofe entered with a Rocky theme.
Wouldn't be surprised there. He's definitely a contender and the defending champion probably now for many years. And it'll be interesting to see how he meshes with the new blood to the Senate seat, James Lankford, replacing Tom Coburn, who's retiring at the end of his term coming up.
And another familiar face wins another term, Tom Cole.
Tom Cole was one of two other U.S. House races called pretty early by the Associated Press at 7:29. They called Cole winning that race. Last count, he was running about 68% of the vote. That is in the 4th District, I believe. In the 3rd District, Frank Lucas, I should say. AP called it for him just before 7:30. He had an even larger margin. 77% of the vote is what he was polling.
One race that has not been called, and as I look at the State Election Board, which has not updated either, Governor Mary Fallin ahead of challenger State Representative Joe Dorman.
Yeah, that's a race that you expected would trend probably in the single digits maybe of margin. Fallin, we saw from early voting returns at the State Election Board, had an edge in mail-in voting, had an edge in absentee voting, with about 33 precincts out of 1,900 plus reporting. She was running about 500 votes up on Dorman. You would expect that some of those early reporting precincts would be your smaller precincts, probably in more rural locations. So if you're on the Democrat side and you're hoping for an upset in that race, you maybe put a little bit of your weight in the Oklahoma County results and the Tulsa County results, and you hope that maybe more of an urban feel is going to have more pull for Joe Dorman on the Democratic side. Still too early to really say on the governor's race where that's going to shape up just yet.
Our Randy Ellis is at Joe Dorman's watch party tonight, and he does report that there is a younger crowd there at that watch party. Some of the other races we're watching, Lieutenant Governor. In fact, Lieutenant Governor, the incumbent Todd Lamb with a strong lead, as well as Joy Hoffmeister in the race for superintendent. In that race, our reporter Jacqueline Cosgrove is in Muskogee for John Cox's watch party. And that's another race we're watching closely.
And that is a relatively close race when you look at some of the runaways that we've already seen tonight for the Republican side. At last count, Joy Hoffmeister was running about 6% ahead of Cox, 53 to 47, give or take a few hundred votes. 53 to 47, I should say. And so that looks like it's one that's probably going to come down to the wire, maybe more so than any other statewide elections that we have tonight.
Some of the other statewide elections that Nick is foreshadowing, Labor Commissioner.
Mark Costello is out to an early lead there. It looks like the incumbent more than likely is going to hold his ground in that race.
And Republican Mark Wayne Mullen has won his second term in the U.S. House, and I don't believe that was much of a surprise either.
Yeah, that's another one where he's running well ahead. That's an interesting race. Of course, if you read the Oklahoman this morning, you would have seen
some headlines right there.
The story about the Democratic candidate in that race, Earl Everett, was in a car wreck on Friday and died on Sunday night. Of course, the ballots are long since printed, and he appears on the ballots. He got some early votes. He's had some voting, people voting today for him. but he was always looked at as a real long shot contender in that race, so no surprise to see Mullen pull ahead in that race.
Nick Trougakos, local editor with the Oklahoman. I will let you sneak back into the Oklahoman's newsroom, and perhaps a tense night ahead as we have to go find some election results now.
We'll figure out a way to do it.
Absolutely. Stay with us throughout the night at newsok.com. You can follow along on social media, OK Votes 2014. Complete election results, I should say, from the State Election Board, we think. You can also see photos from earlier today in tonight's watch parties, and we'll have video online from the candidates later tonight. Nick and I will be back at 9 p.m., and I'll also be joined by Chris Castile from Washington. So look forward to that. Thanks for joining us.